All right, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'd like to welcome you all. My name is Autumn Gecko. I am the one of the career exploration program and social media coordinators for Vitalink. I'm taking over for Ari today, so I'm a little unfamiliar. I was the one that was spamming your email this morning. But I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Just as a friendly reminder, please again type your first and last name in the chat, again with your business or school, just to give the chance everybody to network with one another. And then you're also, please feel free to network at any time during the chat. And then we also have closed captioning as an option as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Brian Dozer, our president, and then he's going to go ahead and introduce everyone else.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Autumn. Appreciate it. And as Autumn said, welcome to the Biotechnology Regional Advisory Board. We're very happy to have everyone. This is actually the first time that, at least in a while, that we have done a regional advisory board for biotechnology. So I'm very excited. We have a great group of panelists for you, and this should be a very informative afternoon. Will you go to the next slide? So Autumn has addressed some of this, but what we are going to also ask is make sure you mute and turn off your camera. We are recording this to load back into the app, and also for anyone to be able to come back and watch later on, or for anyone who was not able to join us to also be able to see. So please mute and turn off your camera, especially when we have the panelists going on. And then make sure you put your first and last name, as she said, on your profile, and then sign in with your first, last name, title, and school district, so that Gabe can make sure that we have everyone recorded for attendance purposes. Next slide. So right now we are in the welcome phase. After this, we will talk to some college panelists. And then after the college panelists, we are going to have a guest speaker. And then I think between the guest speaker and the industry panelists, we'll have a short break for everyone. We have, as I said, a great group of industry panelists, and then we will wrap it up with a final Q&A. And if you had any questions about who that is on the operating table there, that's me. That was at our Medical Careers in Action last year. It was one of the last events that we did before the pandemic, and I was getting my appendix mock removed. So next slide. So first up, we have three wonderful college panelists who are going to be talking or discussing their programs. And I'm trying to see if our moderator is here. Autumn?
I will actually be your moderator today for the college panel.
Okay.
We had a little mix up with the one of the industry moderators, but she will be here definitely for that one. So if I could have everybody but the college panelists go ahead and start your video. Excellent. So whenever the three of you are ready, I'm going to go ahead and just go one by one how you guys are on my screen. And then we're going to go ahead and start with Kathy. If you could introduce yourself as well as your name, college, and how long you've taught or worked in the biotech industry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kathy Takahashi. I teach at Santa Ana College. I actually worked in the biotech industry in Orange County for about 10 years, and I've been teaching for longer than that in LA and Orange County.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Joe, if I could have you introduce yourself as well with the college and how long you've either taught or been in the biotech industry.
Hi, I'm Jo Wu, and I've taught at Fullerton College for 30 years, and I'm also the coordinator for the Amgen Biotech experience for the last 10 years.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Danielle as well, if you could introduce yourself along with the college and how long you've taught or been in the industry as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Alarid. I'm the career education coach for the biotech program at San Diego Canyon College, and I have been support staff for the program since 2016.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go one by one as well for these questions. So Kathy, again, I'm going to start with you. Is your college currently online, in-person, or hybrid?
We are sort of online hybrid. So most of the class is online and then hybrid for some of the labs. In fall, we hope to be in person again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Joe, same for you. If you're currently online, in-person, or hybrid?
Okay, so Fullerton, well, all of the above. So we do have courses, our biotech courses, our cell and molecular biology, microbiology, anatomy courses are still being taught in person at the school without any breaks. And then most of the other courses have moved to be synchronous, remote lectures, and then they send home lab kits that students do labs at home.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Danielle as well, if you could share with us if your school is online, in person, or hybrid as well.
At SCC, we are all of the above as well. So we have certain courses or lecture portions that we're able to conduct online, and then core courses that require hands-on training, and more of our advanced courses, such as our nucleic acids course and our tissue culture courses, those will be in person.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do you kind of seeing within the next year any of those that changing into being more like actually more classes opening up to in-person, or do you think they're going to stay kind of consistently online, hybrid, like a mix for all of you? And then any of you can kind of answer that.
So
I think we're hoping to go back in person.
And we will have, we will continue to keep all of our biotech courses in person as much as possible.
And like Santa Ana College, who is our sister school, we will also probably go back to the in-person.
Thank you so much. And then I'm going to begin with you again, Kathy. How is your college assisting students who are facing challenges with the online or hybrid classes if they're not comfortable learning online?
That has been a challenge. The school has tried to reach out and provide laptops for anyone who needs laptops. They have opened the academic computing lab, so if the students want to come online for a faster connection and do things on campus, they can. I set up lots of tutoring for our class so that they would have extra contact with tutors and the teacher so that they could get help, because sometimes online delivery is tough to absorb as much as you would in person. So those are some of the things we've been doing.
Perfect. Thank you. And then same for you, Joe, as well.
Okay, so Fullerton purchased about 4,000 laptop computers for students to borrow. We have free Wi-Fi in one of our big parking lots at school, so students can come there to get Wi-Fi. We have embedded tutors for a lot of our courses now. And we also have, so embedded tutors means a tutor that comes to the class and hears exactly what the teacher is lecturing on. And then they will have study sessions outside of class with those students. Then we also have separate general online tutors and then technical support 24/7.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Danielle as well, if you could kind of explain how your school is helping the students that maybe have trouble transitioning to online.
Just like Santa Ana and Fullerton, we've been offering laptops that the students can rent out. We also had the parking lots where they could use the Wi-Fi if needed. Another thing that we're doing specifically in the program too that can help students with online learning is we offer lab kits. So for some of the online courses, they still get that hands-on approach and that hands-on experience. So yes, in addition to all the great things the school is offering, we're offering opportunities within the program as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm glad I know that was a big challenge. I've heard from a lot of students like that kind of need that one-on-one too in school. So it's really cool that you guys have all these options to kind of help students out.
Right. And I forgot to mention, so after the semester is over, I'm also running boot camp so that students that could not get access to some of the equipment, they will come in to learn about how to use equipment.
Okay. So like a little extra like homework help kind of thing.
Yeah, it's specifically for learning about equipment. Yeah.
Okay. And then we had a quick question come up in the chat. Someone had asked what soft lab kit experiments are being performed.
I'm sorry, that was a typo. The question was what sort of lab kit experiments are being performed? Because it's hard to, ship out an HPLC or
Right.
like an
Oh, I don't do that.
electrophoresis. I'm just curious what sort of kits or
Kathy, did you want to go first or?
Okay, so the kits that we have activities as far as DNA extraction and transformations and things like that. We do have them prepare DNA restriction digest or running on a gel. And then the kit we provided them actually does have a really crude gel that you can sit up and run the DNA bands on. The thing that we didn't have this semester, but we went and purchased was little specs and pH meters so that we could have those available in the future.
Thank you.
And so that would be fairly similar to Fullerton. We're offering micropipettes, serial dilutions. We do, instead of the spec, we actually are using an app on the cell phone to look at a microplate. We do DNA extractions, DNA gel electrophoresis. And so depending on the class, so some of the classes are actually getting a gel box, a gel electrophoresis system, so it's going to be like $1,000 piece of equipment to the students. Yeah.
Yeah. How about centrifugation? Don't you need a centrifuge for some of those?
So yeah, so I'm using a paper centrifuge that's been designed, and we are looking into purchasing some centrifuges in the future. Anyway, so there is one class that gets all the really nice equipment, and mine does not get as nice equipment, but we're making do, and we're learning to see how science is done in third world countries, and I'm basically adopting paper centrifuges, and it seems to work. So and then for the organismal classes, with some of the other classes, they're actually sending animals home so that students can still do dissections, and they're microscopes with slides. So.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
And is there anything you wanted to add to that, Danielle?
No, all our programs are pretty aligned, and we've been working together on the kits.
Okay. So this next question, I know this is a big one for a lot of students that want to get kind of a head start. Again, Kathy, I'll start with you. Does your college offer dual enrollment? And if so, do the freshmen and sophomores that enter your program tend to be successful? Or how does that work?
So we do have dual enrollment, especially for biotechnology. And we find that the students that are juniors and seniors are more successful. And if they have chemistry, they're even better prepared for the class. So that's what we've observed.
Okay, so you do offer it, but it's better if they kind of come a little bit more prepared instead of just going for it.
They're more successful, and it's better to have a good experience your first time in a college class than to be unprepared.
Yeah, so you stay motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe, same question for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have dual enrollment at 4 different high schools right now, and working on the 5th high school. And I definitely concur with Kathy. We have encouraged the high school counselors and the college counselors to ask the students have high school chemistry before they take a biotechnology dual enrollment course. Because our first year we did not ask for that, and then we found out that they were not so successful. So. But recently they've been doing great. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I know it's probably a lot harder too with transitioning to online. That whole problem comes up again.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. Then Danielle, same question as well for you. Does your college also offer dual enrollment, and do the kids tend to be successful?
We do. I mean, we've had some really good students come through the program. We've had definitely some certificates go out for the first stackable certificate. So we've had a really good turnout. And right before the pandemic, we were even able to host some high school interns that were helping to prep the classes, the dual enrollment classes being offered on their campuses. So we've had a lot of really good luck with it. And I think once we get back in the swing of things, we'll continue to do so.
Thank you so much. And then Danielle, I'm going to go ahead and actually start with you for this question, kind of give you a chance to elaborate more. What do you feel is an appropriate class size for teaching cell culture and bioprocessing?
I do not teach that course. However, I did consult the faculty that teaches that. And she recommends 12 to 16. 12 is the ideal size so that each student is able to get the same experience, but 16 is the cap right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Joe, same question to you. Do you have a recommendation as well?
Definitely, we would prefer to have 12 students. Right now, we just had an industry advisory board to help us recommend that to our curriculum committee. But currently, our classes are being taught at 24. And so what we do is divide the class into one half. So half of them go into the tissue culture room, while the other half is doing some microscope work in the regular classroom. And so they switch around. But it is much better to have smaller classes. And especially because we have hoods, or the biosafety cabinets can fit 2 students in at a time, and they basically have to wear cameras to show what they're doing, and then that's being shown to the teacher on another monitor, so she can actually watch all the students in the biosafety cabinets at the same time.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you so much. And then Kathy, do you have anything to add to that as well?
No, we're in the same situation, and we actually had the same advisory board. So they came back and said they thought the class size should be 2 to 6, but college administration is never going to go for that. So they're always going to want a class that's at least, 24 to 30. So it would be better to teach a smaller class size, but you do what you can with the numbers that you have in your class. So you have to come up with interesting solutions, just like Joe did with the cameras. We have practice bio hoods, biosafety cabinets that they can work in. So you just work with what you have.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I know class sizes have always been a little frustrating for everybody, but I'm glad you guys are finding solutions to kind of work around that. And then Kathy, I'll go ahead and start with you again. Does your college offer certificates in biotechnology or medical technology related courses? And then how can high school students begin the process of learning those specific certificates? I know we kind of talked about dual enrollment a little bit, but if you could kind of elaborate on what else students can do as well.
Sure. At actually all 3 of our campuses, we have collaborated and built our programs together. So we do have stackable certificates, and we try to offer the same certificates at Santa Ana College, Fullerton College, Santiago Canyon College, and Irvine Valley College, so that students have a choice of campuses to go to. And we have an entry-level certificate that's only 3 classes, and then a middle-level certificate that's 3 classes, and an upper-level certificate. If they want to take all of those certificates plus add in some general education classes, they can get an associate's degree. And then that associate's degree transfers to Miracosta and Solano colleges that have bachelor's programs in biomanufacturing. So all the classes articulate, they can transfer right into that program and get a bachelor's degree for less than $10,000. So it's a nice opportunity for the students. If they want to start in this field, then I would recommend looking into taking a dual enrollment class if their high school offers it. We also have articulation agreements with as many high schools as we can for articulating that first class. We offer, I know all the campuses offer the classes in the summers and things, so they could start in the summer if they wanted to take classes. Some of the campuses also have them in the evening and on weekends as well. And then the best place to start is high school, taking your high school chemistry classes and your high school biology classes to prepare you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Joe, as well for you, I'll kind of restate the questions because they're long ones. Does your college offer certifications in biotechnology or medical technology? And then what can high school students do now in order to earn those specific certificates, kind of prepare them?
Okay, so as Kathy said, we all three colleges have exactly the same biotech courses and certificate programs. So we all collaborated on the curriculum originally. So everything she said is exactly true for Fullerton. At Fullerton, I also sometimes will have Saturday workshops that high school and college students are invited to come and to learn some basic hands-on skills, like learning how to pour agar plates, making agarose gels. Learning how to micropipette and use electronic balances. So in the past, I used to run those for 7 years, and we had quite a bit of high school students come to participate and to get an idea of what type of lab work biotechnology means. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Danielle, I know, I'm sorry, your answers are usually very similar to everybody else's, but is there anything you'd like to add or kind of highlight as well from what everyone else has said, or if you have anything new to add?
Sure. I think, yes, it is all the same. It is a fantastic program that is consistent among the respective colleges. And what's great too is that means for scheduling for a student, if their local campus isn't offering a class, it's nice because they still have the opportunity to maybe pick it up at one of the other campuses within the program. But a good way to get started, just to add on that note, is by seeing their high school counselor and filling out, there's the special admission forms. So those special admit forms are how we're able to get the high school students into the program, and then they're able to evaluate, what fees are due. Oftentimes for high school students, there are no charges. So getting in touch with the career coaches at the schools or the career education departments, those are another really great way to get involved and start taking the program.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Joe, I'm going to go ahead and start with you for this next question, kind of give you a chance as well to kind of elaborate more. This is going to be a two-part. What type of skills should high school students teach to prepare their students for biotech courses at your college? And what is the best type of writing to prepare students for the college writing for biotech? Like, I know psychology follows like APA and things like that. Is there something that students should like follow specifically?
Okay, so in terms of skills, I would say basic math skills, chemistry skills, learning to take notes from lectures seems to be very crucial. And then being able to write notes in a lab notebook. And I would say probably if they had maybe a group project, like if there were any science group fair, science fair, or some kind of research project, if they could write a small paper in the scientific paper format, that would also be helpful to them to kind of see how science is done.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Danielle, same thing. If there's any skills that you can recommend to students, or what kind of writing they should be expecting to look at in college?
I would definitely echo everything Dr. Wu said. In addition to soft skills, I think it's really good to start focusing on soft skills as early as you can, because based on our interactions with employers, that is what they're always needing the most. And that's sometimes a struggle, particularly with communication and teamwork. So any opportunities where the students are really practicing those soft skills are help them go far in the classes, and we train in those too. And I would actually reference a different type of writing. I know a lot of employer feedback has said learning maybe some coding, things like Python. Those are really good skills to have from the employer's point of view, and to do future research.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Kathy as well, same questions. What kind of skills should students kind of start doing to prepare? And if you have anything as well on the writing aspect.
I think they did a good job of covering it. Lab skills I would add in there, besides the soft skills, because the soft skills are really important. Punctuality I'd put in there with the soft skills too. I would put critical thinking and unit conversions are a big deal. As far as writing skills, lab notebooking, really good, thorough notebook writing and keeping a good lab notebook. And then basic basic industry interaction communication skills like writing emails, resumes, cover letters, things like that. I think those are all good things to develop, although we will hit those really hard in the program. So they'll do a lot of that when they come to the colleges.
Do any of you kind of have resources that you would recommend to kind of help prepare these soft skills? Like if it's like a LinkedIn video or something, or do you know like where students can kind of find videos on this information, or like how to take notes, or in case their schools don't quite cover it? It's a bit of an odd question. I'm sorry.
I don't think we've started compiling, but we can think about it. Danielle made a resume workshop video.
Okay.
And Jonay has made quite a few videos too.
Okay.
We have within the program, within our regional colleges, we have a job developer, and she's basically our career services department, and she helps all our students prepare for interviews, get their resumes ready, and even just learn how to communicate with employers, like sending those emails, just like Kathy identified. So we do have resources built into the program for students to use as they get ready to, make it to the workforce.
Perfect. Thank you. And then if students wanted to access these like in high school, is that available to them? Or is that something that they should be kind of looking for on their own?
They can definitely contact us, and Jonay would be more than willing to work with them. In addition, if any of the instructors in the high school would like her to come and do a workshop at their high school as far as resume writing or interviewing skills or something like that, that's definitely something we could set up.
Perfect, thank you. So I'll probably ask you then at the end of the panel if I could have the three of you share your information as well, in case there's some instructors that wanted to get that from you. And then I'll go ahead and move back to the questions. I'll go ahead and start with you again, Kathy. How can educators improve the communication with college instructors regarding biotechnology curriculum taught to better transition our high school students to our local colleges? I guess we kind of covered that a little bit. So if you guys have anything else you want to add as well.
Well, we would love for the educators to reach out to us directly. We will provide our contact information, but yeah, we encourage them to reach out to us directly. We're more than willing to share our curriculum, share lab techniques, share things with them, provide them advice as far as articulation agreements and dual enrollment. We're actually trying to we're planning on setting up an annual biotech education advisory meeting in October. So we're hoping that October of 2021 will be the first one, and then we can invite educators to come and we can all collaborate together.
Thank you so much. And then Dr. Wu, if you could also the same question for you as well.
Right. I would strongly advise reaching out to the college lead faculty about the biotech program, and then we can also arrange for outreach programs to come to visit your schools, because we do that. Danielle used to do that quite a bit. We also have teaching assistants who will bring equipment to the school and then either have a lab or demonstration or some kind of activity. And then at Fullerton, and I think also with Santa Ana, we also have high schools that come to visit our college, and so they can visit different programs at the college and rotate through like the engineering, the robotics, the technology, the biotech. And then that way students can actually see the hands-on skills as well. And then I was going to suggest that as the coordinator for the Amgen Biotech Experience, this is a free biotechnology curriculum and equipment loan program to high schools. And so if teachers are interested, they can actually attend a week-long training about biotech curriculum and learn various experiments, from how to do restriction digest, to gel electrophoresis, to protein purification, to bacterial transformation. And so if anyone's interested in that, please feel free to contact me, and then I can arrange for the loan of the equipment and the free supplies for the materials, so that the teachers can then teach their own high school students. Okay, and that and the supplies will are going to be funded by the Amgen Foundation. So that's why it's called the Amgen Biotech Experience. But that biotech curriculum is actually valid for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Danielle, again, same question for you. Just how can educators improve their communication regarding the curriculum and then better transition students to college?
Perfect. Same answers as Joe and Kathy, but I'll just kind of sum them up here. You know, just collaboration. We can take the time to visit classes. Like we said, we do have outreach, so I can go specifically to different classes and offer different quick workshops or whatever you're looking for. We can do virtual tours, coming to the campus, seeing our labs, just collaborating and letting students come on by. We're actually having a career panel where we're opening up invitations to high school students on April 16th. Our job developer, Jonay Varela, is coordinating that. And so it's a life science career panel, and we'll have speakers from Genentech and Illumina. So we've been trying to get the word out on that too, so that more students can come. And if you have any high school students that are interested in the life science industry, they can learn more from people who are actively in it. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then moving on to the next question. Kathy, I'll go ahead and start with you again. Oh, that's my dog. Please ignore that. What career exploration experiences and or support are provided through your programs? So like internship, mentor programs, apprenticeships, and how can students apply or register for these programs?
So as we've all mentioned, there is a dedicated job developer or internship coordinator that works with all 4 of the campuses and identifying internships for students. Jonay works on resumes, resume writing, interviewing skills and things like that. But she also sets up internships at industry sites. So they go out and work in industry. As far as getting into this, they have to take a few of our classes, and then the instructor recommends them to Jonay, and then she works with them to place them at a site. Sometimes though, for our high school students, they're not allowed to work in industry yet. They have to be at least 18. So we do a lot of the internships on campus. So they can work at Santa Ana College, and they can prep materials, run the autoclave, make media for classes. And I think they really like that experience because the stuff that they're making is being used, and they can actually see the students using it. And it's kind of fun to see what you've made being used by somebody else and really enriching their class.
Thank you so much. And then Joe as well, if you could, just same question for you.
Right, so same thing, all of our biotech students in the college or in high school, if they've taken the first certificate, then they can work with Jonay about internships. But I also encourage quite a few to not only think about going into industry, but they could also try for research internships at a university. So many of our students will go there as well as. And then I usually host quite a few internships at my school to help with the reagent preparation and all the equipment validation we do for the Amgen Biotech program. So.
Perfect, thank you so much. And then Danielle as well, I'm sorry, it's lost the shout, it's on my computer, but if you have anything you want to add or any programs that your school offers as well.
You know, I'm sorry, I was putting the link to the virtual event in the chat.
Oh, you're perfect. Do you want me to ask you it again?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You're good, you're good. It was just what career exploration experiences and or support are provided through the program. So like internships, mentor programs, apprenticeships, all that good stuff. And if you do offer them, how are students able to apply or register for those programs?
Absolutely. So we have the same regional program, the Career Service Department, with our job developer as Fullerton and Santa Ana do. But we have at Santiago Canyon College, I work as the career education coach. So I'm able to help students who just want to start exploring biotech and scratch the surface too. I'm a direct resource for them. And we like to have a lot of workshops and events. So a really good way is to participate with us and come join them. Come join us, just like the event I put in the sidebar.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have time for one last question. So I'm just gonna ask a quick question. Is there any, how is the biotechnology program structured? And is there any additional costs for students to participate? So go ahead and start with Kathy again.
There is no additional cost for students to participate. These are regular classes at the community college. We actually designed all of them to use open educational resources and zero textbook costs. As far as the structure, we have 3 levels of certificates. The entry-level certificate has an intro class, a intro chemistry class, and a basic lab skills class. The medium or intermediate level certificate is more about proteins and biomanufacturing and the regulations that go along with that. And then the third level class, or the third level certificate, excuse me, is more about R&D, about nucleic acids and research and development and how to design products. So those are our 3 levels of certificates. And then if you take the GE, like I mentioned before, you can get an associate's degree, which would transfer on to another university.
Thank you so much. And then Dr. Wu, if you could also share as well.
Right, so it's exactly the same way at Fullerton College. And I'll just mention, so we have had high school students definitely be part of the dual enrollment courses, but we also have high school students that are not part of the 4 high schools dual enrollment program come to Fullerton directly, and they will either sign up for the hybrid class or the on-campus class to start this. And we've had several. We've had quite a few high school students, actually, I don't remember exactly the number, but we have some high school students who are able to finish their certificate before they actually enter college. So that is a big plus for them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Danielle, if there's anything you'd like to add as well, if there's any sort of different programs or anything that your college offers as well. I know everything's like before pretty much the same.
They covered it, but thank you.
Of course. Okay, and then
one thing we should mention is that when the high school students take the classes at any of our campuses, their tuition is free.
And all books is free. So even though it's an open resource, quite often the school will print out the textbook and the lab manual that they need to use. And then we also provide free goggles, lab coats, and lab notebooks for them to use. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I know I knew like colleges or the classes are usually free, but I didn't know like the equipment and the books as well. That's really good to know. And then, sorry, there is one last question. If you could please share more about your certifications you offer. I know you kind of reiterated it in that last question. And then if they are industry specific. We'll go ahead and start with anybody who'd like to go ahead and take that first.
So I think the certificates I sort of outlined. We have the introductory one, and then the middle level one that deals with biomanufacturing and proteins, and then the upper level one that deals with nucleic acids and research and design. Industry specific, Joe has been working on that the most, but we are trying to align the skills from the certificates with industry recognized certification. And I'll let Joe continue.
Oh.
Sorry.
So as part of the Amgen project, I have to create, or I'm in charge of creating all the lab reagents. We're talking buffers, micro agar plates, agarose gels, DNA aliquots, DNA purification, protein purification. I need to create enough reagents for 8,000 students every year. And so basically it's a very large, it's a supply chain project. And so, I'm on the task force right now to meet with industry partners to set up the guidelines for community colleges in California, so that we can follow industry, SOPs, batch records, documentation, and troubleshooting, quality control, inventory management. So we're trying to teach them those type of things as well as part of my internship. Right.
Thank you so much. And then Danielle, is there anything you'd like to add to that as well?
No, they did a
Okay,
great
good. Covered it too. Okay. I want to, as we're wrapping up here, I want to thank you all so much for being on this panel and putting up with my questions and all that good stuff. We appreciate your time so much, and thank you again for coming or Zooming with us and doing the panel. And then if I could have you, the three of you, also leave your information in the chat. I know you probably did it earlier, but just in case we had any latecomers, that's just so any instructors can contact you with any questions or to get some of those resources we talked about as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. And then our next speaker that we have is Morgan Zandanella from Medtronic Neurovascular. Yep, there.
Hi, Autumn. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video for you and let you have the floor.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Morgan Zandanella, and I am an engineering program manager at Medtronic Neurovascular. And today I was asked to speak a little bit more about Medtronic in general, and then also have a little bit more detail on the neurovascular space specifically, which is our office here in Irvine, California. We also have another office here that does our heart valve or structural heart type products as well, but I'll be focusing more on the neurovascular side. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to have some slides too, so pictures to go with it. All right, so at a high level, Medtronic is a medical device company, and our company is actually the largest medical device company in the world. And with that, we focus on a variety of disease states and therapeutic products to treat more than 70 conditions in the human body. Because of that size and the amount of therapies that we have, that includes over 49,000 patents in our total portfolio. And really what that means for the work that we do is that we're able to, in the last year alone, reach more than 72 million people to improve their lives. And that's about 2 people every second. And I just love this stat because it's the main reason that I do what I do, and I'm happy to come to work here. And it's something that really drives a passion of what Medtronic does. And I would say that the med device space in general. More specifically, you know, what drives Medtronic, the picture here on the side of the screen is actually our co-founder, Earl Bakken, holding the Medtronic Mission Medallion. And on that medallion that's given to every employee after their first year of service, it's our first and primary tenet, which is to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. And our mission is what directs what we do. So focusing in the areas of biomedical engineering and to strive without reserve for the greatest possible reliability and quality in our products, to make a fair profit doing that, to recognize our employees, and also to maintain good citizenship. Brief history of Medtronic. We've been around for a while. It started out in 1949 in Minnesota, and this is brothers-in-law and an entrepreneur, Earl Bakken, and an electrical engineer by trade, and they developed the first battery-powered pacemaker 1957. And later went on to create a lot of them. The company's gone on to create a lot of the amazing products that you see here on your screen. In the last few years, we've moved more into how can we make things better and smaller? So world's smallest pacemaker, smallest implantable spinal cord stimulator, and then also into the robotic surgical space as well, launching Maser X in 2019. So some main focuses for our business and things that are helping us drive our strategy going forward is making it easier for patients to keep in contact with their healthcare teams to make sure they're getting the care that they need, especially now when we think about COVID and a lot more of the telemedicine space. And working on life-saving technologies to treat and manage chronic diseases and conditions. And there's been a lot more collaboration with hospitals and healthcare systems to really focus on creating value in their organizations and partnering around that idea of value-based healthcare, and also improving access to care around the world. And so a lot of government policies and regulatory initiatives there. So the elephant in the room, of course, in the last year has been coronavirus. And so from a Medtronic perspective, we're not focused necessarily on development of vaccines or involved in the business of ventilators for a long time. And so using our history then to bring new and simple and low cost ventilators to the market and partnerships with our healthcare providers, and then also providing protective equipment as well has been the focus of Medtronic during this time and how we could support. We look across into 4 major operating units. And so our unit here in Irvine, we fall under the neuroscience portfolio. And so the neurovascular space, that's where I hang out with my team here. And we're focused on devices that treat and prevent stroke. So, and then I would say then the smaller part of our business, but still very relevant, is our AVM business as well. And so for here in Irvine, our global patient population is about 14 million. It's a pretty large, and it is the fastest growing business within Medtronic for the last several years as we expand into new markets for neurovascular. So just to kind of highlight some of the products we work on here. So this React aspiration catheter, I work on like the next gen of this product, which is a I guess in layman's terms, you could say is almost like a vacuum cleaner extension. The purpose of this device is to use suction to actually pull clots out of the brain. This second product here, I worked on the second generation of this product, which is Pipeline Shield. And this is a stent that is placed into the brain to help treat aneurysms and redirect flow of blood away from those diseased vessels. So our people, like I said, worldwide, so that's over 90,000 employees worldwide, and over 10,000 of those are scientists and engineers, and another 1,700 of those are clinical professionals. And so through COVID-19, our business continues to grow and develop. You know, healthcare doesn't stop, as we know, and so that's been over $2.3 billion in R&D investments and clinical investments. Patents and clinical trials still going strong even through this market now. Globally, right, over 74 manufacturing sites. We're in over 150 countries. Our main headquarters, where our CEO sits and everything, that's actually in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then of course satellite sites all over, like here in California. And this is one of my favorite slides to talk about our commitment to our volunteerism and philanthropic giving. So and especially our employee volunteering. And this gets into how we do what we do. It's not only about serving our patients through the products that we sell, but also through product donations and giving to further our mission of treating the underserved. And with that, I wanted to kind of get through it quickly to answer any questions anyone might have. And yeah.
I guess I just had one question. What's the competitive landscape in terms of, you know, this specific area of medical devices, and how is Medtronic either benchmarking or in driving innovation?
Yeah, so I would say that's very business specific. So for us here in neurovascular, some of our most direct competitors are right down the street from us. So if you've heard of Microvention, yeah, almost neighbors to us here. So yes, there is a lot of comparison and competitive testing that's done to see what's the best out on the market, and a lot of VOC. So a lot of going out to customers and getting their feedback on devices, what they're using, what's working well, what's not, where are their gaps in the portfolio, to be able to, and that really drives our innovation as our partners with our healthcare providers and key opinion leaders in the space. So for us, neurovascular interventionalists.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, is this working? I think it's working. Hi, I'm Allison. I'm at Anaheim High School. And I'm in the field of producing employees for you. So I'd like to understand what you're looking for. What do you need in employees? Because I'd like to make sure that we can get students that can provide for the services that you need.
Yeah, so in joining the panel here today, I filled out like a short survey that they had. So luckily I've had a chance to think about it. And I think it depends on, too, what those students are going to be interested in doing. So for my space and where I focus primarily is in our engineering groups here. And so we're always looking for fresh talent and engineering talent specifically. We've been hiring a lot. And so for us, that's people that really come that are self-motivated and interested and looking to grow and develop. We know that school does not teach everything. You graduate with an engineering degree, but you don't graduate with that industry knowledge. And so having internships is of course very vital, but then coming with that willingness to still be open and eager to learn is really important.
So do you accept students that do not have a bachelor's degree for either jobs or internships?
Yeah, so probably not for internships. Usually our internships are based on we would be recruiting at a university or at a college type location. But for entry-level jobs without a bachelor's degree, we do have a lot of technician type roles that are available. And so those would be possibly a great fit. So an associate's degree from a technical program, or perhaps another technical training or certification or experience in the field. A lot of times starting out as an assembler, we do a significant amount of manufacturing actually here in our clean rooms here in Irvine. And so starting even at the assembler level and working way up to line leads and technicians and supervisors. So I would say that for us, it's definitely an aptitude for tooling and fixturing, and I think that creative problem solving type mindset is especially critical for those types of roles as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And real quick, there was a question in the chat about who is the person to contact to set up internships.
Okay, so that'll be our human resources department. So I will drop an email address in the chat.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, or you can reach out to me and I'll copy you and forward it along too, if that works as well. Maybe I'll do that. That'll be faster for me.
All right, thank you for doing that. Are there any other questions?
Oh, I
One
see
just
one
popped up. Yeah, in the
Oh,
chat.
there we go.
Yes. So we used to love to do facility tours before COVID happened. And so we've actually had groups of students. We've even done groups for Girl Scouts as young as like 6, 7 to come through our labs and get to make their own blood clots and see a lot of the anatomical models that we use for testing. We've had them get to gown up and kind of see what the clean room environment is like. So yes, we definitely have done facility tours in the past. I think that'll be more available as COVID restrictions lift in the near future, hopefully.
Thank you so much. And then any other last minute questions that we have?
I do.
Okay.
Angela Williams at Orange High School. Hi, Morgan. I'm so
Hi.
sorry I came in later. I just finished my class and I just walked in when you were talking about some apparatus for the vacuum. That was
Oh, yes.
interesting. Oh my gosh. Like my ear, I was just glued, but this is not the question. The question I have for you is, do you do any type of Zoom or any kind of, would you be willing to be a speaker in one of my classes?
Oh, for sure. I'd love to. I've done that in the past and would be happy to do it again.
Okay, next
Yeah.
week?
Yes. Send me what times and we'll see if we can work something out. But I'd love to, yes, because that's probably my favorite part is sharing all the cool products that we work on too. So yeah, I'd be happy to.
You're gonna love my kids. I launched a biotechnology pathway for Orange High School, and I have great kids, and they are doing so well, and they would just love. I know they would just be glued to what you're talking about. So can you give me your email on your in the chat box, please?
Yes, okay, I will do that.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to contact you today.
Okay, will do.
You.
And Morgan, are you still involved with SWE?
Yes, I am very involved with SWE. Yes.
Yeah, I know you and I had talked about it. It's for those who don't know, it's a Society of Women Engineers. Do you want to talk about that just real quickly?
Yes, actually, thank you so much, Brian, for that. Yes, I've been heavily involved with Society of Women Engineers ever since I was in college. And as far as at both the high school level, there is the Society of Women Engineers SWE Next program, which is a high school level program developed to encourage more girls to pursue engineering and the STEM field in general. So there's definitely links, and I'll put that in the chat as well, SWE.org, for anyone that's interested. And then also at the collegiate level, and so offers a lot of connections to industry professionals and academic resources, as well as competitions and all sorts of fun events. Our annual conference that happens, resource and continuing education courses are all available through there. So it's a great resource. SWE Orange County, our local section. I'm currently the outreach chair and running for president next year. So yeah, so we meet regularly and do a lot of programming in the community and join calls like this one to be available as a resource, but also to be role models and mentors as well. So you can always reach out SWEOC.org if you are looking for more speakers or maybe somebody in a particular field. It is cross-disciplinary across all engineering types. So a lot of resources available there, and I'd be thrilled to be able to connect you.
And then you guys had a scholarship too that just closed, right? That you're announcing in May?
Yes, we are. So we do annually offer, actually we just endowed it this year so that we will be offering a $1,000 scholarship to high school students, seniors that are female students that are going to be pursuing engineering. And then we also offer a certificate of merit, which is high school teachers can nominate their students for, that are also recognized around the May timeframe. And then we also offer scholarships for undergrad and graduate students as well every year. So yes, as you mentioned, yeah, they just closed, but definitely something and I encourage everyone to look into for their students for the next year, because it's a local scholarship and we're the ones doing the choosing. Hopefully it makes it a little bit less competitive than some of those national ones or for a whole school.
Thank you so much. And then does anybody else have any questions you'd like to ask as well before we wrap up here? It looks like we're good. Okay. Thank you so much, Morgan, for coming to speak about that. I believe you're also in our panel as well, so there's also more opportunities for everyone to ask you questions. And then if you wouldn't mind, I believe it's in the app as well, but if you also wouldn't mind leaving your information in the chat too, in case anybody would like to network with you, or I know you'd said you love speaking in front of classrooms and all that good stuff. So give everyone the opportunity.
Of course, for sure. Yes, I did drop my email in there, so
Oh,
feel free to
perfect.
message me. And then you can also reach us at swe-oc.org, and I dropped that in the chat as well. You'll see more of our calendar of events that we're having and our newsletter that comes out where we share a lot of the events that we're participating in. So yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
And then before we go on break, I just wanted to go over the app real quick with everybody these last few minutes that we have before the break. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So I believe in the email as well, we had said if you don't have access already to the app, the link is there in the emails that I sent out today. I can also post the link after this, as well as the little access code that you'll need. But before we do that, I just want to go over kind of the app and like what you can expect in it. So once you do download the app and get registered and all that good stuff, you have the calendar area. So it'll show you all the advisory boards that we have offered. So like a couple weeks ago, we had medical. Today we have got biotech. We also have the program finder. Kind of helps you find different programs to see what colleges and high schools offer in these specific industries. And then if you go to the biotech area, as I said just a moment ago, if you want to connect with any of the panelists or have any questions about them, they have information here in these PDFs about any entry-level jobs and things like that, or their bios and all that good stuff. And then another really neat thing about this as well is that if you go to users, you're able to connect and network with anybody that also has registered with the app. I don't have any in mind right now, but once you do connect with someone, they'd be under your connections here. And you're able to find your messages as well here. The phone app is going to look a little bit different than the web app. But then once you do register, you'll have access to the advisory board that you registered for. And then right now I will post the link as well as the access code. And then please feel free to email me if you have any questions about accessing the content or if you're having trouble registering as well.
I just posted it, Autumn.
Oh,
so
thank you so
already in
much.
there. Yeah. And then just so everybody knows, we do call this the app, but it is accessible on desktops as well as Google and Apple devices and tablets.
Yep, so yeah, so it's both in the Google Store, in the web browser, and Apple Store, and then it'll be under Vitalink app. I know it says it's powered by Socio, but it'll say Vitalink app in the App Store as well on the web browser. And then I will also share real quick the QR code in case any of you are interested in downloading the app now. I'll share that real quick. And then I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about the app or about accessing it in case you've had any trouble. I know sometimes technology isn't always our friend, so I'm more than happy to help you with that as well here.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor for me to be here to join the Vitalink panel today. And it's an honor to be a moderator with questions, and I glad to meet you all. So first, just want to introduce myself first, and then we're going to introduce the other panelists. My name is Deirdre Nguyen. I am the currently Garden Council members. By trade, I'm also a cancer scientist. I have a long title, which is a clinical genetic scientist, but I work in cancer lab, and I work for cost diagnostic. Let me start. That's a little bit about myself, and let me start asking the panelists to introduce themselves as well. I have Morgan. If I mispronounce your names, I'm so sorry, and just help me to. Your last name is Zandanella?
Yes, exactly. Just
All
the way
right.
it's spelled. Yeah, thank you, Deidre. Yeah, hi, Morgan Zandanella. Presented a little earlier on Medtronic, where I currently work, and currently engineering program manager at our neurovascular site here in Irvine, California. Graduated from Cal Poly SLO with a biomedical engineering degree, and I've been in medical devices for the past 6 years now.
Thank you. Welcome to the to be part of the panel today. And next, our guest is Anish.
Yeah, Anish.
Anish, I apologize.
You're
Anish.
fine. Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Anish Acharya. I am the head of commercial at Molecular Instruments. We are a biotech startup that spun out of Caltech in 2018, based in Eagle Rock. So locally grown, organic, all that good stuff. I did my PhD at Caltech and did my bachelor's in bioengineering at Boston University, but excited to be here.
All right. Thank you. It's very exciting, all the technologies that bring to our industry, right?
Yeah.
The next person would be Mark Kono. Hi,
yes,
Mark.
Hi. Thank you very much. Mark Kono, I'm the VP of R&D for Edwards Life Sciences. We are a biomedical device company. I graduated from the University of California, San Diego, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And I've been in the industry for 41 years.
Wow. The pioneer, right? Thank you, Mark. And the next guest would be Rafael Ibarra. Am I correct? Say your
You
name
are
correctly.
correct. Yeah, yes, you are. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rafael. I am the head of the quality control laboratories at Takeda Pharmaceuticals at the Los Angeles site. Takeda is a global pharmaceutical company primarily headquartered in Japan, but in LA we focus primarily on plasma-derived therapies for anti-hemophilic factor 8, albumin, and immunodeficiency. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, working within biotech, medical devices, R&D, genomics, bioengineering at UCSD, drug manufacturing, drug development, drug discovery, and more recently here at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, where I started here when it was Shire. It got taken over by Takeda. And again, yeah, I'm just looking to develop strong partnerships and a good pipeline from academia to industry so that we can better serve the needs of Takeda and our patients.
Excellent. And I think this is what the network is all about. That's what brought all of us here together, right? And our next guest would be, I need some help on this one, Foyad.
Oh, he's the one that won't be here till 3.
Oh, he's the one with 3. Okay. I know my name's on here. I already did a little introduction of myself. I also, in the industry, worked for the same company for 23 years. I worked for Quest Diagnostic right after college, fresh out of college for 23 years, up until today. So, yes. Thank you so much. And let's go into some of the questionnaire would be helpful, especially for the school preparation for students to prepare themselves for the career path. So number 2, for the question number 2, let's start with Zandanella. Does your company offer internship for high school and a college student? And if so, is there any age limit?
Yes, so we definitely do college internships. We even did it over the summer, and a lot of our interns were virtual as far as we could. I mentored one who actually had a project, and we sent the parts to her house so she could set it up there and work on her test method there. So it was actually pretty amazing the way that different groups were able to adapt. For high school, we don't necessarily, I would say, have internships, but we do have, I would say, like an informal shadowing program. We are trying to work more on developing high school programs, but we don't really have like a formal one established.
But then for college, this is a little elaborate for the question. So for the college student, are you looking for the second years or the third years?
Both. So we do hire sophomore and junior. There's not like a limit that will say no. I would say that it's more often usually junior to senior, just because usually they have more experience. But I recognize that catch-22 of needing the experience to get the experience as well. So there are sophomores too that are hired in as interns as well.
Oh, excellent. All right, thank you for the information. Mark, the same questions. Does your company offer internship for high school or college? And do you have any age limit for the program?
We don't have any limits on the ages, although for some of the more engineering positions, we usually look for people that are already in a 4-year institution before we would hire somebody for an internship for them, right? But for lab techs and things of that nature, it could be almost anything before that, as long as they have a high school diploma.
Right, that's a good opportunity. Raphael, I'm going to go with according to my screen. So Raphael, the same questions. Does your company offer internship for high school or college student? And does the program have an age limit or expectation from?
Well, we do offer internships. I haven't seen anything for high schools in terms of a formal program. Mostly we are looking for university students, 3rd year, 4th year, hopefully with the intention that they may transition to industry if they so desire. Age limit wise, we don't. I mean, I know people have been in the company for 35 years, which means they probably started when they were in middle school. But certainly, you know, I think for the internship program, we are looking for that level of educational background so that they can be successful in our company.
Thank you. And Anish?
Yeah, and process of elimination. I know I'm next. We don't have any internships. I mean, we're a startup. We aggressively are hiring at least at the college level. High school is a little bit, probably don't have enough experience yet to be working at the bench at least at our company. But I think, you know, just speaking as a scientist as well, like when you rotate in a lab or when you join a lab doing sort of advanced work at the bench, you probably need 2 or 3 months just to get up to speed. And so we love investing in our employees and hoping they grow with us. But an internship we just find is not, at least at our company, is not a good use of a student's time, because they'll spend 3 months learning and then won't get to really execute until they leave. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I have one more, I think. Oh no, the other person at 3 o'clock. Well, for myself, we have the clinical scientist program, internship program at Quest Diagnostic. It's a limited program for licensure by state California, and it's required 52 weeks of hand-on. But the thing is, for the trainee, they get paid by hours. So they get like $17 pay during the internship for 52 weeks straight. And then after that, after they complete 52 weeks of training internship, they will acquire the state board exam. And when they pass board exam, they will get the state license. The requirements to accept into the internship program is you have to complete 4-year degree with the discipline subjects like biological science or microbiology or chemistry, depend on which internship program that they're applying for at Quest. We have 4 limited programs at Quest. One is genetics, cytogenetic program. The other molecular genetic program. And then chemistry program and microbiology program. So 4 different internship program, and all of them, the trainees get paid. The intern get paid by hours, and they do get health medical cover benefit, as well as they also get 401k as well. So consider it's a full-time job, but they actually intern. And then after that, they will get a job at Quas and with the contract. So I think about 3 years of service contract. But then for the R&D side, we do have college internship, a separate during summertime intern. Only cover 2 months during summertime, and they also get paid. But then it's a short time for intern, not as 52 weeks intern. Okay, did I miss anybody, Autumn?
I don't think so.
Okay, how are we doing on time?
You're doing perfect. You're
okay.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, then let's roll down to number 3. Going to this number 3, go to Mark. Mark, we're gonna start with you. What entry-level positions should high school student and or college student apply for after completing a biotechnology program?
Yeah, biotechnology program, I would assume that you're looking for either an operations or a quality or an R&D type of position. And those are mostly for, either 4-year BS graduates or people who have masters or PhD types of programs. I've never heard of a biotechnology program in a high school, so I'm not exactly sure how that applies here or not. But like I said before, I mean, we do have, laboratory positions that are open all the time for technicians and things of that nature. Some of them do have AA types of degrees that were specifically designed for people that were going into the laboratory sciences or laboratory technician type of work. And so those positions are also available at times.
Thank you. This question, I'm not sure if it's going to be applicable for you, Raphael. Regarding to what entry-level positions should high school student and a college student apply for after completing a biotechnology program?
We do have technician level positions at Takeda, primarily in the manufacturing area. And even within the laboratories, we do have a modified job description where a college degree is preferred but not required. So we are open to individuals that do have levels of experience working in industry or through a formal education that would be able to execute basic laboratory methods. So certainly, for my department, it's very rare that we get people straight out of high school. It's typically people with college degrees, but I would expect, a strong, training on documentation, technique. I certainly cannot elaborate on, what the high schools can offer from, laboratory perspective, but certainly, there's a lot of things that, can be done at that level, where it be electrophoresis, simple experiments, pH, conductivity, those kinds of things. So I think, that's what, I would indicate would be, the preference. But for Takeda, it's mostly manufacturing operators that would be running a lot of automated equipment.
Thank you. And this question's gonna go to the same question gonna go to Anish.
Yeah, I think echoing Mark and Raphael to an extent as well, like we hire at the college graduate level on both our manufacturing and research teams. The way I think about it is there's not really a difference in terms of credentials between those teams necessarily. It's more, what is the person or applicant looking for? What are they driven by? manufacturing for me are people who love to execute and get things done and get our product shipped out the door and help our customers directly. And the research team is more about kind of like moonshot ideas. What's coming next? How do you build a product? How do you think about what a customer will get in a year or 2 years or maybe more than that? And so high school level, I mean, I don't think I'd be against hiring a high school student, but I've never seen a high school student get enough lab experience that they would be able to succeed in that role. And I certainly wouldn't want to hire someone knowing they'll probably fail. So I think college level is typically, what we look for. And yeah, in those two teams, like manufacturing associate, research associate, something like that, where you can build the foundational skills and really get a lot of room to grow within the organization.
Thank you. And Morgan, the same question to you.
Yeah, so similarly, for our engineering teams, yeah, we're looking for people that are graduating with their engineering degree for entry level. That being said, I think for high school and actually we've even had university students who do start at like a assembler or pilot line type associate and show really strong promise very early and work their way, to become a line lead or supervisor or into like an R&D technician type role. And I've seen people who then, maybe after high school get into like that technician type role and then decide to pursue an engineering degree and eventually move into like an engineering type role as well. But yeah, for starting out in most of our roles on project teams, yes, it would be an engineering degree most likely, or other STEM degree, of course. But.
And I know that, as technology getting more advanced and advanced every single day, right? It's changing month to month. So the next question is
sorry, Deidre, real quick. Someone had asked a question, I believe, for you. What particular license are they earning at Quest through that internship that you spoke about?
What particular? Sorry, Adam, can you repeat the question?
Sorry, license.
What particular license?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, after the training program, the license that they will obtain once they pass the board exam by State California, the license will be in the discipline of chemistry, limited license, clinical scientist, clinical laboratory scientist, in limited in chemistry, in cytogenetics, in molecular biology, and in microbiology. That's a 4 limited internship program that they will get the license in those 4 disciplines.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I'm sorry, I'll let you continue.
Okay. All right. So for the for number 4, as technology continue grow and continue moving very in a fast pace, are there any new positions available now that weren't available back then? Start with Morgan.
Oh man, start me on one that I need to think about now.
Do you want me to come back to you? I can move on to Mark.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Mark, you can take on the question.
Yeah, for us, what I would say is that cybersecurity has become a big issue recently, or maybe it was more in the financial areas before, but now it's coming into the med area as well. And so people that used to only be in the IT arenas are now are in our industry heavily. And the other one is artificial intelligence, right? Everything used to go to like Google and Amazon and things like that. And now the medical industry is really getting into the artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning arenas as well. And so we have a full team that's dedicated to that type of data, digital data infrastructure. Digital marketing is now a big thing, right? Everybody's marketing through the digital world. So those positions weren't necessarily as prominent as they are, but they are there today.
Thank you. Raphael?
Certainly. I would say that there are certain opportunities created in the initiative to go digital. Certainly here at Takeda, we have what's called Agile 4.0, which encompasses a digital work stream focusing on driving innovation and operational excellence for the laboratory, but site-wide. This impacts manufacturing and engineering. And I think some of the things to highlight are the artificial intelligence. We're looking to incorporate that, especially now within this COVID times, for training purposes, where people can actually visualize a process within the laboratory and execute it virtually using 3D modeling and AI. Robotic process automation, where we're not necessarily trying to replace analysts' headcount, but certainly utilize that as a tool to drive efficiency. These are software robots that execute tasks that normally would be done by a technician or an operator. Definitely predictive analytics is another thing that we're trying to drive progress, not just pulling data and trying to make sense of it, but being able to predict when we would have a failure mode in a specific process, in a specific method. These are things that we're heavily driving here at Takeda, and definitely just overall going digital. When we're looking at our shift huddles and daily meetings, you want to have the tier boards as opposed to paper-based systems. We want to go paperless, minimize the amount of paper, go digital. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Minority Report, but you have these digital boards and you're able to navigate through them and pull information real time, right? That's the initiative that we're driving. We're making a lot of progress site-wide in LA and globally, and certainly anyone that comes in, would benefit from having some background in IT and not just benchtop chemistry.
Thank you. And the same question goes to Anish.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, right? Because I think on the time scale that we're considering, we didn't exist as a company in the before, right? So the entire field of programmable molecular technologies is brand new. Like, we basically are learning how to program DNA, and our entire company is built on that platform. And now many therapies are being developed on that platform too. We can even look at our COVID vaccines we're hopefully all getting soon. But I think I really would reinforce some of the response we've heard so far. Like, social media marketing is a really novel thing that companies in our space are doing. Not typically a biotech thing to be doing. And I also really like the IT thing. I think from the earlier panel today, someone mentioned students are learning more programming skills like Python, and the ability to look through databases and the ability to understand patterns in what people are using. And so I think, the ability to dig into data and understand how programming scripting languages work is always is a successful thing to have in any field, not just biotech. But other than that, I don't think I have much to add here.
And I definitely want to echo that from Anish as well. They recently, because of bioinformatics is something that new recently for just like 2 or 3 years is expanding. But like you talk about 10 years ago, we don't even know what bioinformatics is, right? Yeah. So that's something, a new position created just because of technologies and the expansion of genetic field and all the data, the amount of data they need to interpreting, right? So I think bioinformatics is one of the fields that's growing continually into the future. Okay, we move on to number 5. We start with Morgan. Number 5, what necessary skill and techniques do you expect from students working entry-level positions?
So I think the first and foremost is that we expect students to come still ready to learn. I think a lot of times people think, okay, I finished my degree, I'm ready, I'm going to know what to do and how everything works. And that's just not the case. We really need that open-minded and eagerness to continue to learn once they get here. We understand that degree is a baseline to build from. And so first and foremost is still that willingness to learn, because we're going to assume basically, like, if you've completed your program, that you do have that solid technical aptitude and that, some great problem solving skills, being a self-starter. I think things that we look for, you know, like if I'm looking for more specifically technical type things, you know, I would say like knowledge of Six Sigma or DMAIC type processes for problem solving, or having some sort of internship experience and kind of working through that you know, industry experience if it's there, to really demonstrate that technical aptitude. And depending, again, and it depends on the role, right? So if it's more of like on a manufacturing or quality engineering side, that's going to be a little bit different what we're looking for than compared to in a research and development role. So how much computer-aided drafting or CAD skills somebody has, or technical writing. I think those types of things are going to matter more for the specific job, but are also something that we'd be willing to develop as well. But those are things that at least should have heard of or been exposed to, I would say, prior to joining.
Thank you, Morgan. And Mark, the same question to you as well.
I think the baseline is quite high, as Morgan was indicating, right? That, you know, DMAIC or Six Sigma process is familiar. It seems like, you know, MATLAB or LabVIEW, you have to know how to do the programming, Python abilities. CAD, in our world, CAD/CAM, you know, you have to know CAD/CAM. You can't just be, you know, familiar with it. You actually have to know how to run them. And so I think that those type of things, the bar is set higher. And then, yes, we are still looking for, as Morgan said, people who are still willing to learn, that eagerness, that inquisitiveness, right? All needs to come with it.
Thank you. Raphael?
Well, certainly I echo what Morgan had indicated. You know, we are looking at, you know, those capabilities of, you know, understanding the DMAIC methodology, Six Sigma, a design of experiments, definitely, you know, the critical thinking skills. You know, that's certainly what makes a big difference throughout any area, actually, whether it's engineering, quality, manufacturing. You know, those are good things to start developing early on. And certainly, you know, we're open to helping people further develop those, you know, if they join our company. You know, we definitely have a very strong program, you know, rapid response, because issues will happen, right? No process is perfect, and there's change going on, and that's constant, right?
Absolutely. And Anish?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't disagree with any of the responses so far. I think the nature of our company is, I don't think we have like a fixed set of like specific skills or techniques or programs that someone has taken. I mean, I've done some of these trainings as well, and I think they're helpful in the right context. For us, I will say it's more about just attitude. And I think someone mentioned this earlier. Actually, Morgan, I think you may have said a version of this before in your talk. Coachability is a really, really critical, I think it's a skill. And that I don't think we expect to hire anyone who can come in and day one do their job to the fullest capability. We, you know, we're a startup. I don't have like a Six Sigma in-house professional who can teach someone that, but I do want to invest in people's growth. And the way we do that is, you know, we're open to training programs, we're open to those things. But, you know, the flip side of joining a startup is you have to be okay with some level of, what's a nicer word than chaos, but some level of unstructured problem solving. And so, yeah, it's hard for me to enumerate specific skills or techniques. One thing that I would just want to mention really quick, because I noticed in the chat offline a question about CRISPR, and I think it just ties in here that I think, well, first of all, I think it's amazing that teachers are teaching about CRISPR in high school now, because that was not true, obviously. You know, it didn't exist when I was in high school, but I think just awareness of techniques and awareness of what's out there and just awareness of science that's going on around us is really, really cool and very critical too.
And then for my part, I think it's all of your head nail, right in the head, the nail. The most important thing is communication, because as a supervisor for the lab, when I look into a person who enter into the lab is be able to communicate, be able to have an open mind, right? And of course, what we do is the company or the lab, we're willing to train the person. So we don't expect the person to know technical, because things change. Every lab have different way, different SOP to follow, right? So we're willing to train a person, but the most important thing we expect is at the entry level is to be able to communicate, be able to work as a team. And that's very critical for us, because everything is about team effort. Everybody contributing to the projects or doing testing. Overall it's a team effort. So that is very critical, and that's something that we always want to highlight for anyone who go into industry to prepare for that. Okay, so we going to go into the
Oh, sorry, there's one more question in the chat that popped up. It's a multi-part one. So I'll open this up to anybody. Can you expand on bioinformatics? Do they have this position / department at your company, and what computer programs would be used by these professionals?
I could answer first. At Takeda, we don't have a bioinformatics program. We're strictly a technical operations manufacturing site. I'm sure there are in other regions.
Who want to start that first?
I'm sorry? Yeah, in other areas, we definitely do. For example, in San Diego, there's heavily, bioinformatics for discovery, new chemical entities. But in Los Angeles, that's not something that we currently offer.
Yes.
I can
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
So I could take that one on. At Edwards, yeah, we definitely have a bioinformatics group all in place. It's one thing that I always tell our management is that data is the new oil. And so from an industrial revolution standpoint, being able to mine data is the next big thing. And so we have a whole structure built up for, how do you produce data? How do you acquire data? How do you store data? How do you run through the data? How can you actually implement it into software so it can be set on an instrument? How do you validate the data? So there's a whole group set up to do that whole chain inside of Edwards.
Yeah, and let me clarify, my response further. So there's bioinformatics, which focuses a lot on, maybe the initial impression is on genomics and, genome mining, and all of that information. But in terms of bioprocesses and manufacturing processes, there's definitely a lot of data that's being generated. We're talking about process capabilities, continuous process monitoring and verification, control trending, massive amounts of data that we do generate and trend per regulatory requirements. So certainly we do have a data analytics team, a data sciences team, focusing on all of that, ensuring that we maintain and oversee our processes and maintain control.
Yeah, I think I would echo both of those responses. Medtronic definitely has multiple teams that are dedicated to the bioinformatics across our different business units. It's not as prevalent here at our neurovascular site, just because we are more building like mechanical type devices. So we don't, my site here, we don't gather that type of information or process it, but we do have huge teams in all sorts of different locations that are looking at data that we're getting back from our own devices, whether that's looking at like our cardiac space and understanding different rhythms and how to do feedback loop systems. I'm thinking of a lot of our diabetes types products. So I think there's a lot of work that is being done in that space. Unfortunately, I can't speak too specifically to it from my experience here, but it is a huge part of our business, and I think it's growing. Internal conferences at Medtronic, have really been focused on specifically data analytics and big data, right? Okay, we have all this data, but what exactly are we going to do with it, and how do we make decisions based off of that? is a huge part of it. And I think, and continuing along with that, we've talked a little bit about AI and the drivers there, and I would agree that it's growing, but I think it's also a learning process for the company as well as how do we apply this and being able to figure out. Some businesses I think are more mature in that than others for sure, even within the same company.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think that I echo to all with all of you. The same thing for cross agnostic. We have the whole designated department for bioinformatics, and we look at each lab, like molecular lab or the infectious lab, and how to use the data, how to put in the reportings, and of course automations, it become a part of that as well. So
yeah, the way we look at bioinformatics is maybe we take a step back and think about the definition of how do we use computation to better understand biology. It's a little bit higher order of a definition. And for us, we are designing programmable molecular technologies. Every single thing we do has to function in biology. And so, when we partner with, we frequently work with Caltech to do community outreach at local middle schools and high schools and start getting people thinking about how do proteins fold and how does DNA bind to different things inside a real life sample. So I think for us, when we think about that, we don't even have dedicated departments for it because it's got to be in every single thing we do. Gail, I think, asked the question originally. For us, it's in our research division. Like every single person, works on bioinformatics in some way. In terms of scripting languages, Python is great because if you don't end up working in biotech, it's still a useful programming language to know. I personally sort of learned everything using MATLAB, which is similar to Python, but a little bit easier. It's like a nice sandboxed environment where you can't break too much. So yeah, that's the only thing I would add to the bioinformatics from our side.
Thank you. Now we go to next
I'm
question.
so sorry again.
Oh,
your
last
panelist just arrived, and there are a couple questions in the chat as well. But first, if I could have you introduce yourself. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your first name. It was is it?
Adam?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's a little echo on my side. Can you repeat the question?
So your last panelist is Fuad? Is that how you say your name? I'm so sorry.
Yes, my name is Fuad.
Fuad. Okay, I was so scared to butcher that.
Fuad.
But if you could just give a brief introduction of yourself before we continue.
Yes. First, sorry for joining late. I literally just finished my shift and just got home. I currently work at Gilead Sciences as a manufacturing technician. And a little bit about me, I got my bachelor from UC Irvine in biology, and then I got my master in biomedical sciences from Kansas City University. And then I also did the training in biotechnology program at Citrus College. I finished my program in June, and in September, I was fortunate to join Gilead, and I'm currently work on manufacturing medications like Ambizome and Victory. Victory is the COVID medication, so I felt it was a very a great experience to be in a very regulated environment at Gilead. I'm not sure if you guys just receiving questions, but if you guys have any question for me, you're welcome to ask me.
Well, welcome to the panel. We actually on question number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Thank you for very much. My name is Deirdre, and can you help me to repeat your last name one more time? Your first name one more time.
Okay, first name is Fuad.
Fuad, thank you.
Yeah, but if you like to call me Freddy, it's totally fine.
Okay, number 7. Let's start with Anish. What are the latest trends in the use of equipment in the biotechnology industry that could be feasibly duplicated in the high school classroom?
Yeah, this is also a tough question. So I heard a little bit, I cheated a little bit because I heard a little bit of the earlier panel where I think some of the panelists were speaking about kits that have been being sent out for lab work at the college level, around like gel electrophoresis and some, I think some other fundamental DNA analysis tools that could feasibly be reproduced at home. I mean, I think there are a lot of cool things we could probably do, like as a society, like, you know, there's so many companies making really cool kits for like learning in developing nations, and like during COVID, we're kind of like that as well ourselves. Like needing to have lab equipment at home is really critical. Obviously, we can't send expensive equipment to people's houses. Raphael, I think you mentioned HPLC, which is a great example of something you don't want to ship to anybody. But I think, you know, like fundamental tools like gel electrophoresis are certainly things I was able to learn in high school. And sort of, you know, you may not learn how to use every single machine you may want to know how to use, but you learn the basics of how, you know, what is the point of gel electrophoresis? Like, what is it physically doing? You know, I'm an engineer by training, and rather than just having a black box where you put something in and you learn how to read the results, I always find it's helpful to learn, why is it working the way it's working? What is it doing? How could you do it a different way? So actually, yeah, I think given the cost of entry for most of the tools that, you know, we all use at our companies, I think even just focusing on the basics, but really digging deep into how they work would be one way of looking at this.
Absolutely. Thank you. And going down my screen there, Morgan, you're the next one for these questions.
Yeah, definitely. I think the hands-on nature of being able to bring something that's concrete or they're able to get their hands on is critical. And building that, I think, Anish, I agree. I think a lot of times it's the simplest things, but it's just getting started that can sometimes be the hardest. And so having some familiarity and then digging deep into something and understanding it from beginning to end is just a good practice to be able to work through. As far as things like to bring in, for me, I'm definitely more on the operations and manufacturing side of our business. So for me, even like, you know, when I see first robotics teams and access to machine shops or labs, being able to CAD something up, and then the difference between CADing it and what that physical part actually looks like and being able to fit them together are two totally different things. It can look beautiful in CAD, but we don't quite understand how things fit together once they're made, and tolerancing and things like that are, I think, valuable lessons that the sooner we learn them, the better. So I think even, and I've seen, you know, and 3D printers have come down in cost so much. I think that's a very quick way to, even if you don't have a full machine shop, to still kind of get that concept to development type, you know, to getting your final prototype kind of idea there, and have it be more hands-on to actually see that kind of that design process, and when working through challenges that could be very valuable, and hopefully is a low cost barrier. I think other things like skills that can just be learned that are going to be valuable no matter what. I think of a project I had that I found very valuable that I now think about for people that we interview is basic how-to and technical writing, being able to explain. So tear downs or build up or of a common device, whether that's like a phone or any sort of mechanical device that's just there, being able to really take it apart, build it up, using that language of how you do those types of things can be really valuable as well. And I think could be types of projects that, even though it's not directly related to exactly what we do, is still very applicable, because you learn that thought process and that methodology, which is really what's vital, because every problem is going to be different, but being able to have a strong process to use, I think that's where the value is.
Thank you. Go down to on my screen forward.
Yes.
The question is, what are the latest trends in the use of equipment in the biotechnology industry that could be feasibly duplicated in the high school classroom?
Ooh. I mean, the first thing that came into my mind is gel electrophoresis, but it was mentioned already. I mean, you gotta start with the basic techniques, like before you jump into the little details. Maybe learn how to use a micropipette, for example, how to make a solution, dilution, learn how to transfer the media aseptically in a very clean environment. I feel these are fundamental and they're great, and I feel even people we're at a later stage and they still don't follow the right protocols on how to do things, and they get taught on it later on. So if you want to do something at the high school level or at early stage, just focus on the fundamentals and things will build up with time, and no need like to rush things. But gel electrophoresis is really good. I would focus also on learning before doing. Just know the basics. What's DNA? Why do we care about it? What would be something that contaminated or something that can ruin your experiment? Know why we are doing something before you jump immediately into using the tools. I feel that will save a lot of trouble and save some money too. And another thing that was really big in my field and is documentation. Learning, maybe in high school, if the teacher can start emphasize documentation practices, how you cross a line, maybe with one line, and you put your initial and date. Don't tear any page. You know, these documentation practices are really big, and if a teacher can emphasize that in the classroom, that would be really great. Another point that came into my mind, I forgot it. I want to say something while I was speaking and then I forgot. If I remember, I will come back to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And Mark?
Yeah, I mean, for us, our industry is so broad. We have electronics, we've got mechanical, we've got tissue. And so equipment-wise, you know, there's a lot of stuff. There's some type of accelerated fault testing systems, right? Where you can run heat, atmospheric pressure, humidity, all these chambers that allow you to cycle your products through that. As Morgan said, anything that's rapid prototyping, whether it's 3D printing or whatever, right? Becoming familiar enough with those types of equipment. Operational wise, you know, the robotics lab, if you could have, you know, a single or two-axis robotic system that you can, you know, learn how to program and learn how to work through, those are all very valuable.
Absolutely. I saw Angela have a raise her hand, but can we save that for the Q&A? But one thing, and from my perspective, documentation is very critical for especially working in the lab industry, and then understand the quality control, quality assurance ahead of time. That's very critical for us as well, because everything nowadays is heavily regulated by state and by CAP and by CLIA. If you work in the lab, so heavily regulated by that. So quality assurance and quality control documentation is a must. There's no way around it. So absolutely. And then if high school be able to expose to that, definitely prepare them ahead of time. And then everything else is going to be aligned, right? All the training, all the methodologies and stuff. So I know we have a little time, so let's move on to number 8, and we do have 2 parts questions.
Yeah, I just something. Is that okay? I'm very sorry.
Sure, go ahead for it.
Yeah, I just want to say something that can be replicated easily in the classroom that is very important is working in a team, making different sides of team, and maybe mixing who's going to be the leader of the team. Maybe rotate who's going to take the lead, who's going to take the initiative, who's going to, you know, follow the instructions. Because this is very important dynamic. In the lab, you don't work alone, you're always working a team, and it's very important to start, be adaptable and adjust and be respectful for every culture, every ethnicity. that's very important. And another thing is that came into my mind, learning how, for example, dealing maybe with bacteria cultures, I feel can be easily done relatively if you just have the material, maybe prepare the broth media and using Bunsen burner, how to transfer using the right tools, how to transfer things from the media to the plate, for example. Yes.
Thank you.
Adiri, can I have my day in court too? I think you skipped over me.
I apologize. Yes, Raphael. Sorry.
No worries. So if I understood your question is, what are the trends in instrumentation that can be replicated in
the high school classroom? Correct.
Right. Well, certainly, when it comes to instrumentation and in industry, that comes at a huge capital cost, right? I mean, not everyone can afford, not every high school, and I don't know how well high schools are funded now, but certainly not everyone can, capitalize for a GC, a multi-TOF, an HPLC. Definitely, there's, it's expensive, to be able to resource all of that in a classroom. So most of the stuff, is smaller scale, kit-based, electrophoresis, pH, simple stuff. But certainly there are things that can be replicated in the classroom. I think from an instrumentation standpoint, it's very critical to understand where instrument meets method and method meets process, because that's really how it's utilized in the industry, right? And understanding the continuum of that aspect, will help make the connection and certainly be able to address a lot of problems that we face in industry, right? Instrument breakdown, mean time to failure, overall equipment effectiveness. These are concepts that can certainly be taught in the classroom setting. Certainly aspects of validation, right, that are very critical. System suitability, right, that's certainly transferable. The criticality of calibration and technique, as well, and preventive maintenance, right? Whether it's a spectrophotometer, I think a classroom setting in high school can afford a spectrophotometer. That shouldn't be too much. Some of them are even donated. We donate HPLCs left and right. So I think that's critical. Definitely, I support the technique-based approach, the documentation, and certainly the problem solving, right? When it comes to why is this not working? We face that all the time. Equipment breaks down. We don't have the asset management capabilities 24/7 to fix an instrumentation on the spot. And when you have people working together and identify what's the root cause for instrument failure, I think that's definitely valuable in industry, and that you can replicate in a high school classroom, independent of whatever piece of equipment, instrument, complex or smaller. Right?
And Raphael, thank you so much. But I've been working with a lot of high school in the area, and then when you say you donating the old equipment to high school, that kind of ring the bell, because I know a lot of teachers a lot of science teachers gonna love you for that, because high school they don't have enough equipment to teach the students, and then by having donating, that's great.
Absolutely. We go through instrument life cycle every 5 or 7 years, and once it hits the depreciation and no longer has any book value, we certainly want to move that out of the lab. We want to go for the next generation of instrumentation. Smaller is better, lean. Definitely we want to have a smaller everything, right? Mm-hmm. Our computers or workstations are no longer these big boxes. They're small E-lace computers. You used to see an FTIR instrument be this big, and now it's the size of a small
compact, right?
Handheld,
I know
compact,
there's a DNA, there's a magnifier DNA extraction machine. 5-6 years ago, it's a one bench lab. Now it's like a third of the bench is tiny bit, right?
Absolutely. So that's a good thing to consider, right? We go through that. So we cycle through a lot of instrumentation, make sure that we obviously take into consideration the minimalist concept and conserve bench space to drive efficiency.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move to number 8, which is 2-part questions.
I know one thing really quick. Sorry, Deidre.
Yes,
I do want to move beyond this question, but I think it's because instrumentation is so difficult in our field because it's so expensive and large and whatever. The one point I wanted to make is, like, especially in this time where we're all like working from home and learning from home, is my feeling would be it's better to teach the concepts behind how instruments work than how the instruments work. If we hire someone, I can teach them how to press the right buttons on an HPLC, but if they go through and learn how liquid chromatography works at like a base level and understand the concept of what a machine can do, I think that's still more useful.
I think that's practical and all. Certainly, given the constraints and limitations that we have, but can you learn how to drive a car by reading a book?
I mean, a car is much more accessible, though, as a concept than an HPLC. Like even gel electrophoresis, it's not a high skill technique. It's something I think someone, I mean, I learned how to do it in high school, but like, I don't know if everyone would know, like, oh, it's just a way of physically pulling apart DNA using an electrical field.
No, I'm not in disagreement with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? Certainly, I think that's value added.
Thank you so much for all the input. But because we do have time that we had to catching up, and we do have a series of questions. So let's move on to number 8. And we have only 12 minutes left, so we're going to do a marathon a little bit. So number 8, I know this question might not apply to some of you, but what certifications or license should students have, or do they even matter? And which certifications most desire? I think that's a difficult question right there. Let's start with Mark.
Yeah, for me, there's not really any of them that are required per se, right? But I think that, you know, professional engineering licenses or, you know, project management licenses, those are all beneficial as you want to continue on in your careers versus getting in the door.
Thank you. Anish, you next.
Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot to suggest here that we require. I think like the pharmaceutical colleagues here will have like good clinical practice and good manufacturing practice. Like some of those are helpful frameworks to understand, but I can't think of anything to add here. I'll give you my time.
Oh, Morgan.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that there's anything in particular that we go out and like look for, especially for entry level. That being said, I think one thing that Medtronic's been really encouraging, and we have our own version of it inside, but I know that there's other accrediting bodies out there, is like a 6 Sigma green belt or black belt type certification. But we also do that internally as well. And I think important with that, and it kind of gets into the discussion that Anish and Raphael were having of the difference between learning it and applying it. And so having a certification where you're actually having a project, so which is what we would do through an internal certification, I think is more beneficial probably than just having the certification, you know, and the letters. That being said, I agree with Mark on like, you know, getting a PMP, like something like that. Yes, it definitely is something that's going to help continue, but not necessarily required.
Got it. And Fuad?
Yes, for pharmaceutical, definitely there's a lot of training can be done, but it's not necessarily required. So it depends. For pharmaceutical, I want you to think about manufacturing, or it can be laboratory, and they can be different, very different. So for biotechnology training program would be great, and there's no requirement for it. They would teach you everything from scratch. They would teach you documentation. They would teach you the basic technique, PCR, buffer, calibration, spectrophotometer, all of that. That's the program that I went through myself at Citrus College. For manufacturing, I met some people that didn't have any training before. They train you on the spot. You just need to be ready to read a lot because there's a lot of SOPs you need to read, but they will teach you. For technician part, the more technician you go, the more hands-on experience, and they can be learned on the spot. They're gonna teach you maybe how to press the button, what you do before this step, what you do after this step. But for the laboratory, yeah, biotechnology program would be great.
Thank you. And Raphael, I didn't miss you this time.
Thank you. Certainly, we don't have any specific requirements, nothing that we're looking for, but there are things that stand out for individuals to stay competitive in the labor market. You know, certain things do catch our eye, right? Program management, project management obviously helps, not so much at the entry level, but it does resonate, you know, that someone has that that thought process, you know, of project scopes. Biotechnology programs certainly help for a laboratory environment. Definitely GMP, you know, that's thrown out. That's not something that we expect academia to have a curriculum designed for, but that helps, you know, if there's an understanding of what it means. Sometimes regulatory as well, you know, that's thrown in, but definitely, you know, Six Sigma, you know, these concept of Six Sigma, you know, we don't need someone to be a Six Sigma black belt, you know, yellow belt, green belt, but understanding, you know, what that encompasses, you know, lean practices, design of experiments, all of these things I think are good things to have. If any, you know, even if it's just, you know, in a peripheral sense, right, from an understanding perspective, because you're absolutely right. And Takeda will come in and we'll recertify you, no matter if you already, you know, received that somewhere else or, you know, through formal academic training. We have our own program and our own standards. So those things are good to have, but they're not requirements.
Thank you. And in terms of for my field, in terms of the lab perspective, for us to do the testing, our lab is esoteric lab, so we do a lot of testing on the patients, and it does require to have license. Without a license, you cannot touch patient. You can even open patient sample. Just open it.
Well, that's different because that's diagnostics, right?
Yeah, that's a diagnostic, correctly.
There's issues
so
with data integrity and accuracy of results.
Exactly. So we do require to have a license, and going back to a little bit, and at the different license for internship, we do require for intern to have a license, a trainee license from State California too. So not just an intern, but we require to have to apply for a trainee license from State California to be an intern. So that's for the requirement. Let's move on to number 9, and this is a 2-part questions. What level of writing is necessary for entry level of biotechnology careers? Is additional training offer? Let's start with Anish.
I mean, I think we've covered this a little bit so far. Like, good documentation is an important lab skill. Again, like for me, maybe I was just a bad student, but for me, I work better when someone tells me why to do something. So I learned by case studies, and a great case study for good communication and good written documentation is, you know, a lot of times you pick up a project in lab that someone else left off, and you want to learn from where they left off. And having good written skills is the key to doing that. Being able to go back and see what you worked on 6 months ago, because I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I forget what I worked on sometimes a week ago if I don't write it down. So I think, you know, yes, like we provide training. I think that's part of just personal development anyway. I don't think that's like necessarily needs to be like a structured training environment, but yeah, super important to document things you do so you remember what you did in the future.
Excellent. Morgan?
100%. Writing is vital, critical. We're in a regulated industry, and being able to document what we do is the difference. You know, the common phrase is, if you didn't document it, you didn't do it, right? So if we don't have good records of how things were done, how they were tested, then you may have the best thing in the world, but it won't count. So being able to write effectively and be able to communicate, I mean, that's part of the communication, not just oral, but that written, as Anish just mentioned, being able to go back and look at what's happened before. And I think Raphael mentioned, you know, good manufacturing process or practices is critical. So yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think, and understanding why, right, from a regulatory perspective, but also from a business perspective, and having that history, so that it's not just tribal knowledge.
That's right. That's correct. Fuad?
Yes, I totally agree with what everyone said. Documentation is the key. And I would also add some characteristics that are important, like integrity. Be honest about what you document. Don't backdate. Don't forget something and try to put it on a different date than what you did. Be responsible on your own mistake. Be upfront about it. Be honest. You know, honestly can avoid you a lot of troubles. It can save the company a lot of money. So be honest, communicate well, and be sincere about what you document.
Thank you. Absolutely, I totally agree with you. Raphael?
Certainly, I think writing is fundamental and essential anywhere, but in the business world and in our industry, regulated industry, it's writing and communication. And as far as requirements, I mean, we're not looking for any specific level of prose, diction, syntax, but certainly, we do want context over style. And most importantly, because in our industry, this really ties to the investigations that we write and what we present to the regulators, right? Whenever we have issues, we need to identify what the root cause is, what the corrective action is, the effectiveness, and the frequency of the recurrence of some of these problems. And all of that requires very careful documentation, right? Because ultimately we're going to be up against the regulators are defending this. And if it's poorly written and not well documented, if it's a bunch of fluff versus synthesizing it correctly, that's going to be a challenge for the company. That can result in an observation or 483. I think I can't stress that enough, the importance of having that methodical thinking process in scientific writing. And certainly, obviously, it's important in the regulatory setting. But for us in labs, obviously we focus on GDP, good documentation, and the data integrity associated with the GDP. But the most important thing in writing is this aspect of writing very good, solid investigations that are defensible. Right?
Yes, thank you. And Mark?
I would say I echo what everybody says about writing skills, right? It is absolutely a must in a regulated environment. But I would say one thing that I think everyone should practice is their oral presentation skills and get comfortable with it, because that is the #1 fear out there in the field. If you talk to anyone, they get petrified of trying to do an oral presentation. And I think that's something that you can start to work on even in high school, all the way up through college, is to be able to just be comfortable with that, so that you can give you can talk orally and give presentations.
Yeah, well, you know what the saying goes, right? The person would rather, in a funeral, they'd rather be in the casket than be giving the eulogy.
Yes, I think the key word, go back to the question number 7 that we have heavily discussed is about documentations. What can the high school, what can we duplicate in the high school classroom, right? Beside the instrument, I think documentation, where we can start with the high school students to prepare themselves. And that's the bottom line. That's the fundamental to advance into the career, to the field that they want to be. How are we doing on time? Autumn, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, I sent you a text right now. If you want to just wrap up with number 13, and then we can go into the Q&As.
Okay, so we're going to jump the questions from number 9 to number 13. So let's start with Fuad. Number 13, what advice do you have for high school students who are interested in biotechnology, but are not sure where to start?
Okay, first, assuming that you like the biology class that you took and you like the material learning, I would say go to a community college. That would be a good starting point. A lot of college program can be easily accessible. The program that I did can afford maybe 40 students, but there was only 9 students in the program. So there's a lot of spaces. Not a lot of people maybe know about it. Maybe not a lot of people heard about it, but definitely check with the biotechnology program. Maybe check on YouTube too. Like before you start commit, just make sure that you enjoy the subject. You enjoy where you're putting into what you're putting yourself into. Maybe go on YouTube. Just watch. There's a lot of people who talks about what they do every day. You can try to volunteer in a maybe entry level like research lab maybe. That will start to give you an idea about how you do things, and maybe some people, when you start doing things by hand, they might not like it and change their mind. It's very, especially in biotechnology, you can be on a set schedule and expect to dedicate a lot of time for it.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. Let's go to Raphael.
I'm going to ask you to repeat that question for me because I got distracted briefly by some coworkers here and my IM. I'm sorry.
What advice do you have for the high school students who are interested in biotechnology but are not sure where to start?
I'm sorry, you got cut off at the beginning. I didn't hear the first part.
What advice do you have for high school students who are interested in biotechnology but are not sure where to start?
Well, certainly I would encourage them to ask a lot of questions. Definitely reach out, to mentors, people that have already gone through a program, people that have been through internships. I think it's just a matter of getting started. Some people initially have a great passion for working in a laboratory setting. The whole field of biotechnology is exciting because there's things to be, discovered. There's things that are, there's a lot of innovation, right, in this field. I would say definitely, come to an understanding, if that's really the path that you want to go. Because I can tell you from experience that I have people coming in a laboratory setting, and then all of a sudden they want to go do project management, something completely different, or want to go into QA, and they're not so much interested in the science aspect of it or the laboratory aspect. I guess I would advise them to make sure they know what they're getting into, and the only way you can know is obviously internship programs. That tells you whether it's something you want to commit to or not. But do your research. Talk to people that have already been through the same path.
Yes, I agree. Mark?
I would say start at the end, at the goal, right? And that is to find out if you have a passion for helping patients. Every one of our industries that we're in is all about helping the patient. And so once you decide that that's a passion for you, how you get there, whether it's biotech or biomed, or whether you're a nurse or whether you're a doctor or you're a volunteer, I think all of those will help you guide your path. But if you have a shining North Star that's all about helping patients, then you'll know that that's the right place for you.
I agree. Morgan?
Mark, I couldn't agree with you more. I didn't even know about this field existing until I ended up in a hospital myself when I was back in high school, before my senior year of high school. So I think that having a passion for patients is critical. It's what motivates a lot of our companies for existence, right? So being focused on that is paramount. But I think as far as that space of trying to figure out where to go from there, I think it really is about following curiosity. A lot of times, we say that phrase like follow your passion, but sometimes it's hard to know what your passion is. if you haven't done something yet before. So I think being curious and really encouraging students to reach out to, which can be intimidating, right, to reach out to professionals, but most of them, even if it's usually because they're busy that they don't respond, but really going and reaching out, even if it's people we don't know, to get mentorship or to get some experience, because even if it's just a one-day shadow, to come around and just see what somebody does, sometimes that can be like a very clear, absolute, oh gosh, no, that's not what I want to do, which could be very valuable even if it's not something that they want to do. So I would really encourage people to reach out to people that they're interested, you know, and that could be as simple as going on LinkedIn and going, wow, that person's job sounds kind of cool. I wonder what, you know, and just message them and those types of things. You never know who you're going to connect with or meet. And a plug again for SWE to have those resources available to students to help them with that journey.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Morgan. I think if any one of us here on this panel received an email from someone soliciting feedback on our career paths or, you know, guidance or mentorship, we'd all be very inclined to respond, even as busy as we are.
Totally agree. And we make ourselves valuable, because that's basically how I look at it. The next generation is our replacement, right? That we build up the pipeline for our industry. And I think, Anish, right? Did I miss you or did I already call you?
No, you just called me now, so you didn't miss
Yay!
me. My tips are purely additive, like in addition to everything else everyone said. Great advice. I think be open-minded about what you do. I think it's okay to do something for a summer if it's not what you think is your #1 passion, because I don't know what mine is, and you know, like that doesn't mean I shouldn't do anything. And stay busy. Like if you have a block of time where you could be learning something, try to use it. And you know, that could be, you know, looking at labs at your like local school or college or university, and just email people and ask them, can I just shadow? Like you don't have to be paid if that works. You don't have to have your own project. You don't have to have a title. You can just go and learn and be a sponge.
Yeah, I think volunteering is a great opportunity for many, right? That would want to know.
Yeah.
I applaud to that. I think volunteer definitely play a very crucial role of put your foot into the field that you want to choose that path, career path. I can speak for myself is that I volunteered at UCI Medical Center emergency room for 3 years to make sure that, you know, my career path in medicine, is it the right career for me? So volunteer definitely play a crucial role. And I also, right now I'm part of the mentorship program at United Way. United Way have a great mentorship program for all high school kids. And I actually volunteered to be a mentor for this year. And we have like 500 students sign up. And then, you know, they pair one-on-one, and we have like exchange communications, build up pipelines, and then helping the high school, the mentees, of any question they ask. So be available. So yeah,
and that's a really good way. That's a really good way to figure out if you really truly are passionate about something, because if you are, you know, you're going to do it for free. You know, obviously at one point you have to make a living, right? But certainly volunteering, you know, gives you that insight, that visibility, the networking, you know, that foot in the door, right?
Right. And I can give you on my for my lab, every year we sponsor a group of health club for Westminster High health club students to have a tour at the lab, to be, you know, to see what the lab look like, how operation work, from the beginning and to the end, to see the production, the operation, and so that they know behind the scene how the lab functions, and each role, how the scientists, the R&D or the CLS work, and different components, you know. So the high school, I mean, that's one of the tools that they can use as well. Did I miss anybody else? Oh yeah, sure.
One thing I can mention really quick though too is for teachers as well, like Caltech professors would love it if teachers reached out to them about field trips. We used to do them. but it's really hard for professors to know who to reach out to. But it is very helpful when they're applying for grants, if they show that kind of community outreach. So I remember we had many classes come in over 3, 4, 5 years and see the microscopes that a small, like a high school or public school isn't going to be able to afford, but a private school can. And I think that was always a fun day for everyone involved.
Absolutely. I think we have everybody on, I think everybody already answered question 13. So I think we're going to move into Q&A.
All right, yeah. So we'll move into Q&A now. Thank you so much for moderating, teacher. You did awesome. I'm gonna
by the way, this is my first time moderator, so if there's something to come, sorry.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you as well to all of our speakers. I'm going to go ahead and let instructors and educators, if you guys want to turn on your videos and just ask the questions that we didn't cover. I know there were some in the chat that popped up too that we didn't answer, so everyone's more than welcome to do that for the last 20 minutes or so that we have.
Okay, I'm going to jump in because I'm really excited about just thank you so much for the panel. I'm like fired up to like get started next week with my kids. So thank you so much. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the documentation. I know, okay, so I'm not a normal high school teacher. I actually worked as a research scientist at Baxter before I became a mom, and then I took a hiatus, came back, started teaching high school. So I know a lot about how the private sector works. I was floored when I came back to high school, or came to high school to teach chemistry, and then now I started a biotechnology pathway at Orange High School, which just to, I just want to lift my kids. They're doing awesome. They're doing awesome. I'm so proud of them. But anyways, the thing that I was floored at was that how poor our high school teachers are teaching documentation. Frankly, they don't know what they're doing. And so what I did was I created my own little, no, this is, and they would come up and they would say, no, this is what I was taught in AP class or this class. And I'm like, sweetheart, that's not the way you do it in real world, in the industry. You need to do it this way. So what I wanted to do was to kind of have, maybe I don't need your, of course I don't need your private, your confidential, documentation from work, but just some guidelines, because all the ones that are out there online, they're from universities, and theirs is still not that, it's not applicable to the real world. And so maybe that's something that you guys can do as a favor to high schoolers to show what this really should look like, like not skipping a page, just doing it, crossing out once, initially date it, never erasing, always using a black pen, things like that. So what say you?
Well, I would say that, obviously it is important, documentation. I worked in research laboratories where people document things in their glove and then take it off and throw it in the trash, and then they're digging through the trash and trying to find that number that they took on the spectrophotometer, right? I mean, that's terrible. That's the worst I've seen example of documentation. But it does matter what you're documenting, right? There are certain, strict requirements. If you're in a research setting, it's more flexible. There are laboratory, if you're in industry, there's obviously, laboratory notebooks and guidelines on how to document, your hypothesis, you're proving your hypothesis and your conclusions and all that stuff. But in industry, definitely, it goes beyond GDP, right? Which is crossing out real-time, dating, no backdating, all that stuff. I think that's basic, those are good documentation practices. But there's a more rigorous standard, which most of you guys probably in industry are familiar with it, which is data integrity and the principles of ALCOA, which data needs to be accurate, legible, contemporaneous, original, and then ALCOA plus, which means retrievable, all that stuff, right? And I'm sure you guys, if you're not familiar, you can look it up. I think that's important fundamentals to disseminate anywhere. Because when it comes to a research setting and there's patent contentions or litigation, they're going to go back to your laboratory notebook. They're going to go back to your documentation, right? And how accurate is your documentation for that specific experiment, so that you can defend your intellectual property. So it's important no matter what, whether you're in research or whether you're in industry. Definitely, the basics are there, per procedure. I don't think that's, infringing on disclosures, of documentation practices for good GDP, but definitely data integrity is something that's becoming very scrutinized in the industry, and not just paper-based systems. We're talking about hybrid systems that are both electronic, control of access controls, archiving of data, retrieving of data, the legibility of data, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's very important.
Can I just expand on that one real quick with because when I was working, we didn't have electronic documentation. So that's something that I'm unfamiliar with in the private sector. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, certainly, when it comes to data, right, we have paper-based systems, and I think I mandated as one of our digital initiatives is to move away from paper-based systems to a digital laboratory where LIMS link all the information. LIMS is our laboratory information management system where all of the information that we gather, whether it's through a paper-based documentation notebook that gets transferred into a central repository accessible to everyone worldwide, gets documented. We want to move away from paper systems and have that data be sent directly electronically into our laboratory information management system. That's the ideal, right? Because that ensures that you have data integrity for the most part, if you do it right. If you link your instrumentation where you're generating the results to the system central repository where you're sharing that information. Not everyone has that capability. I'm sure not, high school is not going to be able to afford a LIMS system. You're talking about millions of dollars of investments. It needs to make sense, but there are systems that are electronic, right? Where you do house that data. There has to be password control, securities. And then what do you do in the event of a computer crash and you lose all your data? Then you have nothing. So you have to have the ability to recover a disaster management or a disaster recovery, all of those things. So I think for, I'm moving away from paper. It's really just identifying, how you are going to be able to manage your electronic data if you generate a lot of it. We've been talking about big data. We've been talking about, bioinformatics. Well, all of this, it eventually needs to be, protected and secured and ensure that it's not adulterated or manipulated.
It's interesting because the electronic data system gets validated a lot more heavily than a person system. If you really come down to think about it that way, it's like, okay, you train an operator to write down and you put it into a notebook, but you have to test it 10 ways, to Sunday. If you have a direct data link to an instrumentation that's taking a reading and dumping it directly into an LMS. And it's just amazing, like Rafael was saying, in terms of, your backup, your catastrophe systems, your everything else that goes on, versus if you did it manually, it's only really, it's up to the operator to make sure that it gets loaded in there correctly. And I always just think that it's always funny to think about it that way, that the amount of effort that goes into putting in an electronic system.
I just want to echo on that one. Is like nowadays they're under cap, way heavily regulated on the software, where they had to handle with the result. And every time you upgrade the software to a different version, you have to prove the validation.
Yeah.
So you have to validate it just because the different version upgrade. So that keep going. Like you said, it's heavily regulated by agency.
That's one of the reasons why you don't use an Apple system or a Microsoft system in there, because every time they update the iOS, you would never be able to run your system anymore. Anyway, I just said that's a joke on the Apple and Microsoft guys, but yeah.
It's for business purposes that they do it. They're forcing you to upgrade.
I also have suggestion for documentation. I know where I work at, we always work in pairs. We document in pairs. We always have the first person who do the documentation, and then we have a verifier that check everything I did and then put his initial and date afterward. So because we are humans, we do mistakes sometimes. So it's good to work in pairs, to always have verifier.
Yes, and that certainly is a requirement in our industry, right? That you have our performer, verifier, reviewer,
Countersignatures
quality
everywhere.
Yeah. And we're all liable, all three of us, right?
One thing I'd add for a company who's not directly creating like treatments or therapies where we don't have, as heavy-handed regulation or as important need for that stuff, there are reasons to do this that aren't just like, we're going to punish you if we find something wrong, right? Like, we need to be able to reproduce what we do. And I can share like one little vignette, which I think is really cool. Like, we manufacture pretty difficult to manufacture molecules. We can't buy them off the shelf. We have to do it ourselves. And we keep a very thorough and detailed manufacturing log of every batch of this molecule that we produce. So we know if our customers have issues, we can reference that batch number, look at the QC data, understand like, was there something weird that happened here that might explain it? And we recently found that something that we wouldn't have guessed is like the seasonality of the nighttime temperature in the summer in Eagle Rock actually plays a minor role for some of our, like a subset of our molecules that we never would have guessed before. Like, we developed everything we use in Pasadena, which is pretty much the same temperature all year round. And so like, temperature fluctuations are things we wouldn't have been able to look at if we didn't keep like detailed logs. And it's not like a tool for punishing people or tracking mistakes down. It's just, how do we know what we did so we can learn from it when we see things we don't expect?
Certainly. And I think intuitively, we can all appreciate the element of accuracy in data, right? Independent of whether it's pharmaceutical, the financial sector. I think we all know that, we don't appreciate a credit card statement that has inaccurate billing, right? I mean, that certainly is something that, it's not supposed to happen, but it does, right? So, the accuracy of the recording, what across any, the financial sector, biotech, it's, absolutely critical, and making sure that it is being, reviewed, verified. I think it's underestimated, because certainly depending on how close that data is to the product stream, it can certainly have some ramifications, right? That's where recalls happen, in the therapeutic industry or medical devices, right? And things go out without that verification of the accuracy of the results, whether it's the potency or the activity of the pharmaceutical, drug product.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up there at our last 5 minutes. I just wanted to be able to say thank you again to all of our panelists, both the college panelists and as well as our industry professionals here. Thank you so much for sharing all of your information that you had with us and a lot of your perspectives. And I think it's always fun to see, I like seeing everybody collaborate too on ideas, and like when you guys carry off one another. Thank you again. And thank you, Deidre, again for moderating. I know it was your first time, but you did awesome. And then before we go, I just want to share this last thing with you. I'm going to post the link as well in the chat. And then if any of the panelists today would like to share their contact information for instructors and educators to reach out to them, you're more than welcome to in the chat. And then I'm going to share the QR code again for the app, the VitalLink app on Socio. Again, you can get it on the Apple Store, Google Store, and it's in your web browser app as well, so you don't have to download anything. But that's there for everybody to use. And then, yeah, thank you again for everybody that joined us today.